Welcome to the 2023 Annual Safety Meeting. In this lesson, we'll talk about school bus safety statistics to include children left on buses here in Indiana, and also the new 2021 student fatality data from the state of Kansas. Let's talk about a child left on a school bus. So, post-trip inspection. We go over this every year, it seems like, and we still average about 20 kids left on school buses every year here in Indiana. So let's go over the law. A person who operates a school bus or special purpose bus shall visually inspect each seat within the interior of the school bus or special purpose bus at the end of a trip during which students or passengers are transported to determine that no student or passenger has remained on the school bus or special purpose bus. The visual inspection required must be conducted at the conclusion of each trip during which students or passengers are transported and before the operator exits the school bus or special purpose bus. A student or passenger is considered to have been left on a school bus or special purpose bus if the operator has reached the end of a trip during which student or passengers are transported and exited the school bus or special purpose bus, and the student or passenger remains inside the school bus or special purpose bus. A school bus or special purpose bus owner shall report all instances of a student or passenger being left on the school bus or special purpose bus to the superintendent or the superintendent's designee immediately after the incident occurred. And the superintendent or the superintendent's designee shall report all instances of students or passengers left on school buses or special purpose buses to the Department of Education no later than 5 working days after the incident occurs. Now let's take a look of a child who has been left on a school bus.
And some Bentonville parents want answers this afternoon after their kindergartner was left alone on a bus for 4 hours. Charlie Carpenter got on the bus around 6:15 yesterday morning, but he never made it to school. The transportation department called his parents around 11, saying a maintenance worker found him on the stored bus. He was sweating, hungry, and dehydrated. Now his parents are questioning why it took so long for anyone to notice that he was missing.
He was drenched in sweat. They had already changed his clothes. He had urinated on himself. Like he was hot, thirsty, hungry.
What they said was that when it comes to elementary kids, they won't really call the parents unless it's been a few days, and they haven't heard from the parents in a few days.
The school district says it's investigating to see exactly how this happened. Bentonville schools implemented a new card system this year to help track students getting on and off of buses. The Carpenters say they have not received one of those cards for Charlie just yet.
All right, so this is what is in the Department of Education online when a school district has to report a child left on a school bus. So since July 29th of 2022 and for this school year, we have roughly had 16 incidents where children have been left on school buses. When you look at it, it is mostly elementary school students from kindergarten up to about 6th grade. There is 2 situations where a 7th grader and a 9th grader was left on a school bus, but typically it is elementary school kids, and for a number of reasons. The kid fell asleep on the bus or something like that. But we still have to make sure that when we're checking that school bus that we're not worried about nothing else, our cell phones or anything like that, but we're looking for those students. One incident is too many, but 16 incidents, and some of these incidents you see here involve multiple children. So when you look at what a school district has to report, and we've blocked out the district that had to report, and of course the driver's name, but when you look at the incident, it says date reported, the date the incident happened. These will both not be the same date sometimes, because remember, the district has 5 working days to report it to us. Then the corporation name, then the driver's last name, the age of the student, the name of the child is never given, and then the grade that the child is in. And then the school district will give a brief synopsis of what happened. So this information is asked for by news reporters, things like that, when they want to do news stories on a child being left on a school bus. And more often than not, it does happen a lot where we get a request for this information. So let's look at the statistics of a child left on a school bus here in Indiana. And this data goes all the way back to the 2009 2010 school year up until this year. So we average right at 2021 incidents per year. Now, when you look at the number of current occurrences, 2017, 2018 was pretty bad. You know, we had right at about 30 incidents that year, as well as 2018, 2019. And you look at 2012, 2013, you know, those years, along with 2011, 2012, were also pretty high when you consider 2011, 2012 had 25 incidents, and then 2012, 2013 had roughly about 28 kids. Now, when you look at the COVID years, of course, you would expect that to be low. But when you look at this year, 2022 to 2023, we're right at 16 incidents. So right now, we're currently under the average that we normally have. And if you look at the darker colors on there, you know, grades 7th through 9th grade. You see grades 10 through 12. So those are really small. But look at the yellow on all of those. That's grades 1 through 6. And then, of course, green is kindergarten, you know, or preschool. So you see the incidents, where it happens, you know, things like that. So when you look at how much experience a driver has that leaves kids on the bus, the average number of years is right at 6 years. So that's somebody that's been driving for a while, you know, every school year and knows what they're responsible for. If you look at the green for new drivers or have experience from 1 to 2 years, is fairly low because everything is still fresh on their mind. So when you look at veteran drivers, a lot of us get into bad habits, complacency, but we got to make sure no matter how much experience we have, whether it's 1 year or, you know, over 20 years, we got to make sure we're checking for these kids. And if you look at why drivers leave children on the school bus, you have distraction. 1A is they walked the bus but didn't see the child. 1B is the driver needed to use the restroom, which, you know, it happens, you know, but you don't want it to, but it does. 1C, incident during a route. 1D, miscellaneous. 2, did not walk the bus at all. So when you look at these statistics right here, you know, a lot of this right here was definitely preventable when you look at the kids that were left on board the school bus and the occurrence that actually caused it. And when you look at the didn't walk the bus at all, for a lot of these, that is the biggest issue. That drivers didn't even walk the bus, you know, and you know, it's just something that we need to make sure we're doing. None of us would appreciate if we have kids being left on a school bus for 15 minutes to an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, or anything like that. Okay, so when you look at the occurrence of incidents, the 2021, 21, 22 school years were impacted by COVID. But approximately 32% of incidents of children left on a school vehicle occurred specifically to the driver not walking the bus. Approximately 14% of incidents occurred because the driver needed to use the restroom. And in approximately 25% of the incidents, there was not enough data description of the reason a child was left on the school vehicle to tell if the driver walked the vehicle or not. But more than 42% of all incidents occurred in the last 6 years, which includes the COVID years. So the 42% in the past 6 years is concerning because as we've been doing this, you would think the numbers would be getting better because we've trained on it, we've learned more information. We got student finder, child finder, where you go back there and push the button, and it's actually getting worse. All right, so the 32% of incidents where a bus driver did not walk the bus, that's inexcusable because it's the law. It's the post trip. You have to do it. So you want to make sure that when you find yourself getting complacent, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Now let's look at the child alert notification system that is installed on your school buses. So when you look at Indiana Code 1-9-15 child alert notification systems, a child alert notification system is required on every bus manufactured after January 1st, 2015. The device must not affect or interfere with any existing operating or electrical component. All right, so that includes your turn signals, brake lights, stop arm, things like that. The device must permit the driver complete control of the ignition switch and not interfere with engine operation or shutdown. When the ignition switch is in the on or accessory positions, the device must be in standby mode and silent. The device may have an indicator light within normal view of the driver indicating the device is operational and in standby mode. The indicator light must be labeled and identified. So when the ignition is turned off, a timer must automatically set. The amount of delay may not exceed 2 minutes and may be programmable up to the maximum time limit. The device may emit a reminder tone or signal during the delay period. The timer delay may have a reset feature located within reach of the driver when it is in the seated position, but allows the timer delay to be reset for an additional length of time, not to exceed 2 minutes for each reset without deactivating the child alert notification system. When the time delay expires, the driver has not activated the reset switch or turned the ignition to the on or accessory position. The driver must activate the horn. The device must activate the horn, The horn must sound intermittently and continuously until the reset switch is pressed or electrical power is restored with the ignition switch. The reset switch must be push button type and not require a key. An override bypass capability is prohibited. The reset switch must be mounted on the interior rear of the bus behind the rearmost seat or wheelchair location. So when you look at this, any bus made after 2015 has the child alert notification system. So it's definitely something that we must use if we have it. But even if you don't have that, you still have to walk your bus, not be on your phone, not be distracted, and look down at every seat to verify no students remain inside the school bus or special purpose bus. Now we'll look at the 2020-2021 National School Bus Loading and Unloading Survey. This information is always 2 years out, so this is the current information. We know over the past couple years that more kids have been added, but right now this is what the University of Kansas has compiled for 2020-2021. So for the 2020-2021 school year, all right, there were 5 fatalities. So when you look at the one in the top right, New York, a 6-year-old boy and his 9-year-old brother were running to catch the bus. The 9-year-old boarded the bus. The 6-year-old was in the front of the bus as the bus pulled away from the bus stop. The 6-year-old student was struck and killed by the right front and right rear wheels of the bus. Now below that, Rhode Island, they refused to participate in any of these studies. Now, Mississippi, a 7-year-old girl and another student were crossing the roadway after disembarking the bus. The bus was stopped with the stop arm and 8-way red lights activated. A semi-driver attempted to avoid colliding with a properly stopped vehicle behind the bus, swerved and struck 2 students. the 7-year-old student was killed, and the other student was taken by air ambulance to the hospital. Now in Texas, a 6-year-old girl was running to catch the bus. The bus was pulling away from the bus stop. The student was struck and killed by the left front wheel of the bus. And in Kansas, a 7-year-old girl was crossing the roadway to board the bus. The bus was stopped with the stop arm and 8-way red lights activated. An oncoming vehicle did not stop, and the student was struck and killed. So when you look at two of these situations, it was another vehicle that hit and killed those children. But in New York and Texas, it was the school bus. So let's look at school buses versus other vehicles. So in this situation, like we just spoke about, 2 of the fatalities were school buses, 2 were by other vehicles. So let's look at the bus type. So when you think of a Type C, a conventional bus, you look at the statistics from 2016 to 2020, that 6 fatalities were with a Type C bus. A Type D bus, a transit bus, you see that 3 fatalities were caused by that. Now, school children killed by vehicle passing the school bus, 2016 it was 6, 2017 it was 3, 2018 it was 7, 2019 1, and 2020 it was 2. Let's look at the position of a child when killed by their school bus. So you look at the rear of the bus, there was 6 from 2016 to 2020. The front of the bus, there have been 3 from 2016 to 2020. And in 2016, you had 1 fatality where the kid was caught in the door and killed that way, dragged and killed. But as far as a dropped object where the child went under the bus to get it, you notice there is no fatalities in that situation. And I would like to think that is a result of a bus driver telling their kids, hey, if you drop something, let me know so I can get out and get it, things like that. So when you look at this, we always say we teach afternoon runs are the most dangerous. But when you look at the statistics from last year, from 2020, 2021, 3 of the fatalities happened in the morning, and 1 of the fatalities happened in the afternoon. So when you look at 2016 to 2020, 18 fatalities happened in the morning, and then on their way home, 10 fatalities happened on their way home. So when you look at it over the past 5 years in this situation, going to school was more deadly than going home, unfortunately. And we don't want none of this to happen, no matter when it does. So location of the fatality: waiting for the school bus, 1 fatality; unloading in the afternoon, 1 fatality; walking or running to the bus stop in the mornings, that was 2. So you had 2 running to catch the bus, 1 waiting at the bus stop that was killed, and then 1 that was unloading in the afternoon lost their life. And so when you look at the age of the students, 6 years old, which is the average over the past 40 years, it has been 6 years old. So when you look at this right here, 2 of the fatalities were 6-year-olds, and then 2 of the fatalities were 7-year-olds. So 3 of the fatalities from the 2020-2021 school year were female, 1 was male. And day of the week, 4 fatalities were on Wednesday, And traditionally, Tuesdays is the highest day because if you think about it, Tuesdays is the one day kids are always in school. But in the 2020-2021 school year, it happened on Wednesdays. And the month the fatalities occurred, one happened in February, one happened in September, one happened in November, and one happened in December. Now, traditionally, January is our highest month, along with October. And ironically enough, even though the numbers are not as high as January and October when it comes to fatalities, December, in theory, is the highest month when you consider most kids are out of school half that month. So lighting conditions, when you look at dawn, one fatality occurred, but there was daylight for the other three. Weather, the one fatality was it was raining, and the other three, it was clear. And then weather-related road conditions, two fatalities, it was dry. For two fatalities, the roads were wet. An area where fatalities occurred. Two occurred in rural areas, two occurred in urban areas. Now, road type, you see one fatality occurred on a county road, one fatality occurred on a state highway, and then two fatalities, um, happened on city streets. So we really want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure we're transporting our kids as safely as possible. And I know you guys have a tough job and you guys do it extremely well. But whether it's leaving a kid on a school bus or, you know, having an accident where a kid is injured. Nobody set out to do that, but we got to make sure that we're paying attention and doing what we're supposed to be doing. So, with that said, that concludes this part of the annual safety meeting. And now we're going to take a look at some of our great drivers throughout the state. So, this is Brittany Van Mater. Brittany Van Mater drives a special ed route for the Madison Grant United School Corporation, is one of my ELDT trainers, and Brittany is very caring and takes a genuine interest in the students she transports. Every October, she dresses up as Miss Frizzle, and the kids love it. Brittany has driven 3.5 years and has become a vital part of the transportation team. She is always on the lookout for safer, more efficient ways to transport her students, and Brittany has a great personality and can often be counted on to help get students to and from tutoring services and to and from extracurricular events. Thanks, Brittany, for all you do. And she was nominated by Christy, her transportation director. All right, so this is Davy Slayball she has been a bus driver for Triton Schools for 13 years. All right, she's an outstanding bus driver. She is dedicated to her students and the corporation and cares for all of the students on her bus and goes above and beyond to make sure that the students she transports every day are safe. And that is from Laura, her transportation director. Annette Brown. She has a special way of connecting with her students on her special needs route. She can diffuse the most upset rider with just the tone of her voice. Ms. Brown has learned some sign language and uses creative photos to communicate with her hearing impaired riders. Annually, Ms. Brown has taken extra special care of her graduating students. Many years she's purchased clothing for the special day and has personally transported her students to and from graduation when parents could not. Annette serves the district as the lead bus driver and is consistently sharing with others with her knowledge and experience. Wanee is a safer and more enjoyable place to work. because of Miss Brown. And that is from her director, Amy Rosa. Donna Todd has been driving since 1975. Donna is a devoted driver who has not had any accidents in her driving time with the corporation. She has very little discipline problems on her route, and if she does, she handles it herself. Her love for her job and the students that she transports makes her a valuable asset to the North Newton School Corporation. And that is from her director, Dave Clements. And this concludes our 2023 annual safety meeting on school bus safety statistics. Thank you all for what you do and continue to keep doing great things.